want to comment later on, that will be available to you as well. This presentation will also be recorded, and so you're welcome to watch this again. So the Q&A recording and any questions or comments that occur during the webinar, as well as all written comments, will be forwarded to the planning board and recorded as public comment. And part of the planning board discussion, which is tentatively scheduled for January 10th of 2024. If you'd like to sign up for updates and future meeting information, please email planning@edmondswa.gov. I'm going to have Jeff put that into our chat box. You're also welcome to add your name and contact information into the comment box as well, if that's easier for you. So a little bit of housekeeping before we begin. Questions will be addressed after the presentation is over. And after the presentation, if anyone has questions or comments, you can raise your hand. Jeff is going to go down the list in order and unmute each person one by one. And if you would like to leave any comments in the chat, you can leave them at any time, and then they will be answered at the end of the presentation and again be part of public record. That being said, the purpose of this presentation is to gather public input. Our goal is ultimately to expand housing options for residents who choose to build an ADU in accordance with Washington state mandates. And then just keep in mind that no decisions will be made from this meeting. This is just information gathering. We want to know your opinions. The planning board will be making the final recommendation to city council, who will be making the final legislative action. And proposals here are recommendations only, staff recommendations only, and of course the opportunity for everyone to voice your opinions. So let's get started with the slideshow. And bear with me, I have a toddler who gave me a nasty cold, so if my voice goes out, I might have to have Jeff or Navusha take over for me, but crossing my fingers that won't have to happen. So first off, most people are familiar with what ADUs are, but if you're not, I'm happy to explain that. It's a small residence that's going to share the same lot as the primary dwelling, the same parcel. It's self-contained, has its own kitchen, bathroom, living and sleeping area. And usually they come in two forms, which is going to be attached or detached, which otherwise known as a DADU or DADU. Benefits of ADUs, again, I think many people know these, but if you don't, lots of benefits to ADUs. Something that we're really concentrating here in Edmonds is supporting aging in place. And then just, meeting diverse housing needs and allowing more options for homeowners, as well as a multi-generational living. Excuse me. So what did we use for guidance? House Bill 1337 came out in this summer, and this is going to mandate certain things within the city of Edmonds regarding the development of ADUs, which I'll go into a little bit further. So of course we use that report. We also use the Washington State Department of Commerce guidance, which aligns with House Bill 1337 as well as provides best practices. And then we use the American Association of Retired Persons, the AARP guidance. They've done a really big lift for the nation regarding ADUs and really kind of spreading the word about those, popularizing them and letting people know what they are. And then we use the Edmonds Citizens Housing Commission survey as well from 2021, I believe. So the presentation is going to address the following. We're going to talk about the current policy here in the City of Edmonds. We're going to talk about the House Bill 1337. We're going to talk about best practices in the nation and in the region. And then finally, some proposed changes to the City of Edmonds policy. And this is the portion that we are really interested in your feedback. So why, and I also want to, yeah, why do we want to allow DADUs in Edmonds today? This was something that was identified in both the Citizens Housing Commission survey and also our comprehensive plan as opportunities to expand housing options and to take away some of the stricter regulations to make these a little bit easier to build. Another thing is we have an aging population here that is a little bit greater than the average in the nation. And I think it's only going to increase as time goes by, just from census trends. We have an aging upwards over the next 50 years or so. And anecdotally, as somebody who works at the counter and who does current planning, one of our most frequent over-the-counter questions are about DADUs and if they will be, for the purposes of aging in place, multi-generational living. I often get folks calling in asking if they can build a detached unit to house their kids who may have just had a baby and they want to live closer to their parents, or for folks who have an aging parent that wants to remain in Edmonds or who wants to remain with family, but they don't necessarily want them living in the same household. So that detached close unit is definitely something that I hear about every day. People are requesting for more information about that. So there's definitely an interest here in Edmonds. So what does our code currently look like? A conditional use permit is allowed. This is kind of a lengthy process. It's about $1,100, takes 4 to 6 months. Right now, we only allow attached ADUs. DADUs are not permitted. I think this is a kind of a rare case within Western Washington. DADUs are permitted in most other areas. You can only have one accessory dwelling unit per lot. You can't, it must be 40% of the livable floor area of the principal dwelling, up to a maximum of 800 square feet. No more than 2 bedrooms. Must architecturally match the primary residence. The entrance must be on the side. And then 3 parking spaces are allowed, so one are required. So 1 for the ADU, and then as well as the 2 that are required for the primary dwelling. And then of course that the primary dwelling unit needs to be owner occupied. So the big question that I know many of you have is, what will HB 1337 require? This is required to go into effect by June 30th of 2025. We have the opportunity now to kind of get ahead of this a little bit and provide that DADU usage, as well as aligning with the state regulations now to meet the need that we do have in Edmonds. So 1337 is going to ease the barriers of construction. It's going to allow ADUs as a secondary outright permitted use, and it's going to legalize accessory dwelling units. Two accessory dwelling units per lot and other restrictions. So specifically, as it pertains to Edmonds, this is what it's going to look like. And again, this is June 30th, 2025. I know I say July 1st, but it is at the beginning July 1st at the when we have to do this. So 2 ADUs per lot will be required, no owner occupancy requirements, can allow a separate sale of ADUs. Parking within a half mile of transit is not, within a half mile of transit will not be required. Maximum size limitation is no less than 1,000 square feet, and allow DADUs to be sited on rear lot lines if they abut an alley. And then nothing more restrictive than what's already required for the principal unit. And then ADUs will be allowed to be up to 24 feet in height. So best practices, excuse me. So again, this is from Washington Department of Commerce, AARP, and general trends in ADU permitting. And that is to allow all types of accessory dwelling units, that's DADUs and ADUs. That would be absolutely no additional parking. Minimize permit fees. We have flexible and simple regulatory requirements for setback, square footage, and design. Prefabricated modular units would be allowed. Pre-approved units would be allowed. Owner occupancy would not be allowed. And then also that sale of condominiums. So what we're looking at is kind of a blend of best practices. Our proposals are going to be a blend of best practices and what's required by 1337. So this is what the code may look like. This is what we're recommending. Again, this is not something that's going to go into effect without public participation. This is something that City Council will ultimately decide based on the planning board recommendations. Anything with a star next to it is must go into effect by July 20, June 30th, 2025 per the state mandate. So permitted outright secondary use, no conditional use permit, it would just be a building permit with some additional use regulations, would be allowed to be in PRDs, so planned residential developments. We would allow detached and attached ADUs. We would allow 2 ADUs in any configuration, max height 24 feet, no rear setbacks. If that rear lot line abuts a public alley, reduced rear setbacks in other instances, not more than 1,200 square feet for this size. There would be no design restrictions, and not much is changing here with parking, so no parking would be required if the lot is within half mile of a major transit stop. And then the owner would not be required to reside in one of the units. And again, the asterisks are what will be a state mandated in June, by June 30th. So this just kind of breaks it down a little bit. The main thing here is that ADUs will be an outright permitted secondary use. That conditional use permit process will be going away. They'll be allowed within planned residential development zones. Prefabricated units would be allowed. Height would be 24 feet max. We would decrease rear setback requirements and then allow those ADUs up to 1,200 square feet. 2 ADUs would be allowed in all lots. These are some visualizations of what that could look like, what would be allowed. And then this just kind of, for the parking, this is a nice visualization of where no parking actually would be allowed. It's in these concentric circles are areas that are half a mile within a transit zone. So those would be areas where parking would not be required. Another thing for any new DADU, so that's new construction of a DADU in alignment with our climate action plan, one EV ready parking space would be mandated for each. That's the same as with a new single family dwelling. And then again, owner occupancy would not be required, and we would allow sale as condominiums as well. One thing I want to talk about, this isn't really aligned with our, you know, the code changes per se, but this is something that I wanted to talk about. Where pre-approved designs. Um, on the right here are some there's a prefab unit on the upper right here, and then the lower right is a pre-approved design. So that's a design that you can purchase from a developer and then have your contractor builder build something like that. And this is a good way for homeowners and the community to kind of align some designs with the community vision. Um, I know in Leavenworth, for instance, there's several different um, pre-approved designs that you can choose from in different styles, and that is something that we would like to explore if people are interested in doing something like that. And for the homeowner who wants to do something like this, this is a good way to streamline that process and lower costs and the time frame as well. So then last up, this is kind of the schedule of how this code amendment is going to play out. We've already done an introduction to City Council. Right now we're doing the community outreach. Again, this is going to be up until the end of December. All of the comments and this presentation will be reviewed uh, during the planning board discussion and recommendation on January 10th. And we're hoping for a council decision in a beginning of March 2024. Okay, so that's the end of the presentation. I'm going to leave it here at this screen that we did already go over, just to show what the proposal is in the code and how that may look. And then I think we can go ahead and open it up for any questions or comments as well.
So again, if anybody just raises their hand, we will unmute you and let you ask your question. Okay, Mike McMurray. Did I get that right? Can you unmute now?
Yeah. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
good. Excellent. Yes.
Oh, cool. Thanks. The Seahawks just took the lead, by the way. Seahawks game's on. Hey, thanks for your time. I know it's you guys long day for you guys. I was on the Housing Commission for 15 months, so I just wanted to jump on the call. Thanks for the presentation. One thing that was discussed was, since Edmonds lives in a view corridor, it's kind of a unique property, only 8 square miles. A lot of houses have views, and they pay kind of a higher property tax to have those views. So one concern was, if someone builds a 1,200 square foot house in their neighbor's backyard and blocks that view, then essentially you're transferring that view to your neighbor. So one idea that I had, and Shane Hope, the director, said it was, feasible to implement, was to have like a neighborhood review. So if you go to apply for an ADU, there could be a simple question that could say, hey, is this additional structure going to substantially block your neighbor's view? And if you check the box yes, then there would be kind of a letter sent out to the neighbors just saying, hey, your neighbor wants to build this house here. Are you okay with it? I think my experience on the Housing Commission was, most people like the idea of being able to build something in their backyard for multiple reasons, as you guys discussed. But one of the elephants in the room was, well, if people start building, additional structures in their backyard, you start blocking and diminishing your neighbor's, property. That needs to be addressed. I think it's unique for Edmonds. I think the state, well intentioned, but you can't cookie cut every community the same way. So I think I'd be happy if Edmonds just had a few critiques to this and added some protections for some of the neighbors. I think ADUs have a lot of potential. The other concern is parking, of course. You start adding additional structures, then all of a sudden, if you have a renter next to you, they're parking in front of your house every day. You're starting to diminish some livability. I think that needs to be addressed. But there's a lot of positives for ADUs too. I like some of the manufactured stuff. Has really come a long way. Some of the modern stuff's pretty nice, and it can be a great investment for individual homeowners. So I'm not all negative. I just living in Edmonds for such a long time, appreciate the views. I know people sacrifice a lot to have a view property, but I think the city of Edmonds and the leadership needs to really take a moment to make sure that they're protecting some of their citizens and their property. But there's work to be done. But that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thanks. Rose, did you have anything to add to that? Rose, you're on mute.
I don't, unless he had a specific question. Otherwise, we'll just be taking that into account for planning board.
Yeah, we'll discuss
Yep.
with see
Yep.
what can happen with the views and that. Okay, the next question is from Michelle Dopsch. Can you hear? Michelle, you should be able to unmute. Okay, I am not sure. It says that it's been unlocked. So, Michelle, I'm going to come back to you in just a
Here I
moment.
go.
Oh,
Sorry.
there
I
you are.
found it.
Okay,
I've
nick
never
of
used
time.
Teams before. You guys usually do Zoom, and Teams is not real user friendly here, at least for me. Thank you for this. I just wanted to ask, can you clarify, since you're going to add 200 extra square feet as your recommendation over the state maximum size of 1,000 square feet, can you explain what that amount includes and what it doesn't include, so everybody understands that? Thank you.
Yeah, so let me know if I'm not answering your question here. Again, so this would be based on best practices. That's through AARP and the Washington Department of Commerce. The reason that we have recommended 1,200 square feet is more of a living environment for multifamily housing, so multiple people living in one spot, that is a little bit more space than 1,000 square feet. And then if I can answer the second part of the question, what would that entail? That would be the footprint of the home. Things like FAR, those may be explored with the comp plan update, but at this point in time, that would be the footprint of the accessory structure. Did I answer that question?
Sorry, I mean, the gross floor area is the interior habitable area, does not include garage or accessory structure. I just want people to understand that if there is a garage, that is extra.
Correct. Yeah. So generally it's when we say 40%, now, that would be the livable floor area, so that does not include the garage or any sort of unheated areas.
Okay.
And for
people
this,
don't usually know that.
Yep.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Okay. Next question is from Brian Smith. Brian, you should be able to unmute. Brian, any luck? There should be a little mic in the towards the upper right of your screen that should have a line through it right now that you can check that will let your mic work. Okay, so unfortunately I can't mute you for you. So I'm just going to keep you here in the queue and I'll come back to you and check back in a minute. So we'll do that and we'll move on to the next question. This is from Eric Moss. Eric, can you unmute?
Hey, thanks for taking my question. How does the city plan on addressing cost prohibitive, or at least you could say a barrier, financial barrier for homeowners who want to build ADUs on their lot regarding utility connection fees, which can be upwards of 15% of a budget for a small project like this, like an ADU.
Excuse me, let me unmic myself. Of course, yes. So that is something that we're seeing. At this point in time, that's not something that we're exploring. That is definitely going to be something that we flesh out a little bit more when we get towards the January 10th discussion with Planning Board, because there are issues with how many meters we will be requiring, and that is based on the Public Works Department and also utility billing. So once we have a little bit more of an established outline for what the code will look like, we're going to be working with them to see how we can lower costs for applicants regarding utility hookups and meters and things like that.
All right. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to try to allow Brian again. Brian, any luck?
Is that better?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I was hitting the mute button on that was next to my name, not in the actual meeting section. Anyway, so my wife and I live over near Ballinger Lake, which is not going to be a view issue as a previous speaker mentioned. But I'm a little concerned if they open it up to everyone in your neighborhood can say yay or nay to it. That I don't know if that's going to work out. But anyway, we've been thinking about a dadu for quite some time. I'm a builder, and our question would be, what do you see the soonest those permits would be ready for application as a dadu right now under whatever new rules come down the pike? What's the soonest I can apply for my application?
Right. So we're required by the state to this will be a requirement by June 30th, 2025. However, we're starting this process now. If we're able to stay on track here and get through our planning board, we would be, let me go back a slide that kind of gave us a little, I'll go back to this last slide of what the timeline looks like. March 5th would be that council decision if they were to decide to allow for DADUs with whatever conditions. It would be a couple weeks after that when once it was codified that you could start applying for those building permits. At that point in time, the timeline there would probably be similar to a new single family home in terms of a permit wait time, which I think right now, let me see if I can answer that quickly right now, would be about a month for the first review to get through the first review.
Mhm. Okay.
So potentially mid-April, early June at the very soonest.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's good to know. That's good news because, I mean, my wife's retired. I'm not quite retired, but waiting 2-3 years is not very helpful to us. Being that we have, for the very reason this is being suggested, is multifamily needs and aging in place needs. So, okay, well, I think that answers my main question. The rest, I
right.
think I can gather through your pamphlets.
Sure. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Brian. The next is going to be Jared. Jared, you can unmute now. Again, there should be a little button in the upper right next to the leave button that says mic. Hopefully I believe that's there for everyone. Okay, Jared, we're gonna come back to you. Don't worry. I'm just gonna move on to the next. The next is Karen Haas. Karen, can you unmute? No. Okay. Well, those are the two questions. Okay, we've got another one from okay, hold on. Jared put his question in the chat. He says, I can't unmute, but I was wondering if there will still be a limitation for an ADU being only up to a certain percentage, currently 50% of the size of the primary dwelling unit.
No.
Okay.
Yep. That's, I just wanted to double check. Yeah, there is no requirement that it will be a proportion of the primary unit. It will cap out at that 1,000 to 1,200 square feet. Does not need to be behind the primary dwelling either. However, if you do live on an alleyway, you may want to take advantage of that zero lot line that will be proposed, and then typically, you know, for sheds and things like that, we allow for a setback. Excuse me, a 5-foot setback if it's under 600 square feet. We're still discussing whether that's something we want to do for ADUs as well, but there may be some reasons that to put it in the back and some more flexible standards, setback standards, if you want to do that. Just something to keep in mind.
Okay. Karen's question, Karen Haas Herrick, who could not unmute, is asking, how can we permit ADUs in a PRD when they exist in the codes and covenants? Do we know which?
Right. So if it is, not all PRDs have covenants that only allow single family homes. A lot of them do. If there is a private covenant, we cannot allow that. I know the state has already weighed in on that a little bit, but if there's a private covenant there that does not allow ADUs, then they're just not allowed. Not again, so not all PRDs have those covenants, but our code at this point says no ADUs are allowed in PRDs.
All right, and the next question is going to be David R. David, can you?
We also have one question from Ryan in the chat that we missed before. So he says, I currently have 1,000 square foot residence. Can I make the DADU and then build a new house, a larger house as the primary residence instead? Our neighbors just built a 2-story playhouse and it blocks our view of the sky. I think everyone should be entitled to their view, whether it's of the water or the sky, and it should be protected. I'll copy paste again in the chat so that everybody knows what was happening.
So that would be possible to have your house then become the ADU. Again, this is with the passage of 1337 in 2025. And potentially early next year if everything goes through council.
Okay. David R., your question, you can still unmute and ask.
Great. Just wondering if you could clarify the statement about for sale as a condominium. What does that mean? Does it mean property lots are being cut in half? Or what? If you clarify that, please.
Yeah, so I don't know how much I can actually clarify on that. We're still waiting on a little bit of information from Commerce, which will be available in January. So maybe not January 1st, but sometime within actually, so sorry, January 23rd. I'm just looking at my calendar. There will be a model ordinance, model code language for that. Yeah, so you would be able to either do a unit lot subdivision on those homes, or it would go right now. Condominiums are dealt with, like a condominium unit that's in a multifamily, like what appears to be an apartment building. Those are regulated by the state. And so we don't know if that's going to go through the state as a condominium or if we're going to be treating it as a unit lot subdivision.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there aren't other questions here, there is one in the chat. That's from Mung. She says, if I have a small house of 1,000 square feet, can I use it as an ADU and build a new bigger house as the main house?
I think I don't know if that was the same question or if this is from somebody else who also has the same question, but yes, that would be allowed.
And another question for the attached ADU, can I install a door between the main unit and the ADU?
Yes, typically that's what's already done with attached ADUs. They're usually completely separate dwelling units with separate entrances. So separate, they're not always connected. They're connected physically, but not necessarily through like open, locked. There can be a locked door between the home and the accessory unit. And that stands today, so that's not going to be a change.
Okay. Are there any other questions that anybody has? Just throw your hand up for the next couple of minutes.
or comments.
Or comments in the chat.
Yeah. And then we're going to be here till 7:30. So, you know, if you want to make a comment in the next 10 minutes, we'll be here. It looks like
Okay,
Greg.
here's one
Yep.
from, Greg Long. Okay, Greg, you can unmute.
Yes, I want to certainly voice my support for your moving towards allowing detached ADUs. I was on the Housing Commission and did spend a lot of time looking at this, and it really, I think, makes a lot of sense. But I do have a question that you're saying that there would be no design restrictions at all. And is that part of the state law, or is that something that you all are proposing?
That is part of the state law.
So somebody can build anything they want. It doesn't have to match the house in color or roof line or anything else.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm not pleased with that, but I guess the state has decided to do that.
And so, you know, there's ways that certain things like that can be encouraged. So, you know, some of these pre-approved designs, if they are cheaper and easier for to build, this is a good opportunity for folks to weigh in if that's something they would like to see, is having some of these designs, you know, align with what they feel like that their community vision is like. And again, it's up to the private homeowner to build what they want to build, but this may be an option that could encourage some of that.
We've been taking a look at some of the other cities neighboring that some of them have done this, where they do pre-approved designs that you can choose from. And by doing that, it's something that the city has already vetted and gone through. So the time from construction, from initial permit to construction gets greatly reduced. And so with that, then there's design elements that we can put into that if somebody wants to, they can utilize. So I believe the city of Seattle, the city of
Yes.
Leavenworth actually had a very good one, and a few others. So that's another thing that we're looking into exploring as this moves along.
Okay, well, thank you. Another question that occurs to me is, my understanding is financing for ADUs is still very difficult. And is the city going to do anything to support that? That I think some communities have around the country.
Yes, they have. And within our region as well, that's been something that's been done. Again, that's kind of a discussion that will be further down the line here. When it comes to implementation, what kind of options do we have? So right now we're really just talking about the changes to the development code, but these would be things that were outside of the development code. And I know that there has been some policies in place in many cities, again, with like utility billing and, you know, waiving permit fees and, you know, setting up community bank accounts, things like that have been effective. But again, that's kind of a little bit further down the line here. But yes, we would definitely be exploring things like that again down the line.
Okay, well, thank you all. I'm glad that you're doing this. I know I gave Will Chen a bad time about having not pursued this for 2 years now. So thank you for pursuing it.
Thank you. All right, I think we have also a few more chat questions. One was, I'm not sure if we have the answer for this one, but how will property tax be assessed? Is that?
I don't know, unfortunately. Yeah.
It's will certainly be something that gets worked out as this moves along before. So answers will be made for that, but at this time we don't. Let's see. Additionally, I think there's a question here about are we going to charge impact fees for schools, traffic, fines, parks, etc.? I believe we don't have an answer at this time for that either.
No, we wouldn't actually be doing that. We don't do that now for ADUs, and we typically don't do that for new single family homes. So if you build a brand new home, we don't charge those impact fees. It's generally only with larger developments, subdivisions, things like that.
And Jared asks, would there be a chance that once anyone gets a permit for an ADU kit or design, that it would become pre-approved for anyone else to build if they purchase the same plan or kit? I think the answer to that is that we're looking into different methods of how we can get plans pre-approved, potentially in ways that can actually help local businesses as well, local architects. So that's all still just brainstorming right now. So ideas like this and comments are great feedback for us, and we'll make sure we look at them all and take them into consideration as we move along. Tony asks, can we get DADU plans pre-approved before the 2025 timeline?
Potentially, again, that is something that would need to be, vetted by the planning board. They would make a recommendation to city council. And it's not going to be something that, well, it actually, no, it would be in the code, but potentially that's what our recommendation is, right? So when we get this, if this does pass in early March, we would like that to be part of that, the pre-approved designs and the prefab designs.
Okay, any other questions? Again, also, if you put any comments or anything in chat, everything will be taken into consideration and we'll be looking at it. So, and I will also once again put up the website as well as, so the website that you can scroll down to the bottom and add comments in the comment box. And below that is the email address that you can also email questions to if you'd like.
And I know I already gave a shout out to AARP, but they have some excellent information online about the benefits of ADUs and some options for development as well. So that's a really good resource to check out if you're just curious for more information as well. So I just saw a chat pop up about the next time to participate. So this again will be open until the end of December. So if you didn't make a comment tonight, you're welcome to make a comment into the chat, the comment box. Tell your friends or anyone who might be interested to comment before the end of the month. And then we will be having the planning board public hearing is tentatively scheduled. Again, let's go back to my schedule here. Will be on January 10th. I'm sorry, excuse me, on January 24th. And if you have comments in between that time, we're happy to take them as well after December through the planning at edmondswa.gov. We will forward those on to planning board as well.
In the chat, Mung also had a question: is if I have a corner lot, can I have 2 driveways?
I know I'm not an engineer, so I can't answer that question at this time. I know it's based on the street frontage length, but beyond that, I can't answer that question. I check back with one of the engineers on tomorrow if that would be a possibility. I don't think that and again, that may be something that we will be talking to Public Works about, allowing for multiple driveways and things like that. But I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for you right now.
And then the other question is, will there be any restrictions regarding structures to permeable surfaces?
I think it's going to most likely be similar to what it is today. So I think it's 2,000 new or replaced impervious surfaces require stormwater review. Again, it's unlikely that, I don't know if I said this before, but the addition of ADUs are not going to, potentially will not be more impactful than most folks who are coming into Edmonds and tearing down homes and building new homes. What we're seeing is a lot of people maxing out that 35% lot coverage. At this point, we don't have any changes in that lot coverage amount. So the volume of building is not really changing. So I don't think it's going to really impact anything other than what's already happening with single family development in terms of stormwater and impervious surfaces.
I just
Okay.
received, I just received another question through our web portal that says, would Airbnb be allowed? Which means apartment rentals. I think they're already allowed as
Yeah,
per the
so
code.
Airbnbs are already allowed. That's again something that may be regulated. It would be regulated separate from DADUs, but just so everyone's aware that Airbnbs are not regulated at the moment, so they are allowed, just not, of course, in detached units because those are not allowed. All that's required at this point in time is a business license from the Airbnb proprietor.
Well, as we round down in our last couple minutes, I just wanted to say thanks for the great questions and comments that we've gotten so far. This has been really kind of informative, and we've gotten a couple of good pieces of information that we get to take back and make sure that we include in our next round.
The webinar recording will also be on the webpage, so you can hear all these questions and answers again and write us if you have more questions.
Looks like we have one final question. I saw a hand raise.
Oh yeah, I didn't see.
No, I guess it's just thank you and good night, everyone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think it's time. So once again, for the few remaining, thanks again. And I think we can sign off and call it a night.